Thank you for joining us on First Coast News Plus. I'm Anthony Austin. As 2024 comes to a close, we're counting down the top 10 stories you are most interested in on firstcoastnews.com. At number 10, a Duval County public school teacher arrested for exposing himself at a Disney World hotel, and the school district's apology for how long it took them to remove that teacher from the classroom, 45 days. Our Andrew Badillo has the story.
After learning about the arrest of Douglas Anderson teacher Chris Allen Black, he stayed in the classroom with students for 45 days. Alum Shyla Jenkins struggled to find the words.
It just boggles the mind how the district fumbled the ball.
On February 24, Allen Black was arrested after several women saw him exposing himself at a Disney World hotel. February 27th, the district learned about his arrest and started an investigation. March 11th, it obtained the police report. 1 month later, Allen Black was removed from the classroom. In a message to parents, Superintendent Dr. Dana Krisnar saying Allen Black should have been pulled from the classroom immediately.
My phone blew up. Did you know? I can't believe this is happening again.
Since March 2023, Allen Black is the 5th Douglas Anderson teacher removed from the classroom, including Jeffrey Clayton. Wednesday, Clayton pleaded guilty to felony charges for his interactions with students. His arrest triggered an investigation into how the school and district look into inappropriate actions with students.
We have nothing more than we did a year ago.
DCPS says a comprehensive plan to address the situation at DA is being prepared. Jenkins has been trying to get answers from the district about its investigation. Friday, she met with school board member Cindy Pearson. Douglas Anderson is in her district.
But she was very forthcoming with what she could tell me, and that she's had very strong conversations with staff. She takes pride in her schools.
Jenkins says she'll continue to push for answers for alum and current students.
One thing that we've tried this last year is to change the culture. That school is an amazing school for these kids.
State Senator Clay Yarborough has also been pushing for answers from the investigation into Douglas Anderson. He sent us a statement tonight saying he appreciates the email sent by Dr. Krisnar, but wants the findings of the investigation to be released immediately. And in doing so, it could give parents and the public confidence that whatever response measures DCPS plans to implement are sufficient. Andrew Badillo, First Coast News, on your side.
This next story came out of a Governor Ron DeSantis news conference where he announced an increase in teacher pay, allotting $1.25 billion to the cause from the state budget. How did our Jacksonville area teachers react to the news? That was our 9th top story of 2024. Here's Christina Burgess.
We're proud to rank #1 in education. We're not going to take our foot off the gas pedal.
$1.25 billion. That's how much Governor Ron DeSantis is promising for next year in the form of teacher pay increases.
Increasing teacher salary is giving a nod to teachers.
Denise McFarland is a librarian and teacher at Inglewood Elementary School. She sees an increase in teacher pay as a form of appreciation to those in the classrooms doing the hard work.
Saying what you do is valuable. You do make a difference in the lives of children, but then ultimately you make a difference in our world, right? Because we're shaping these young minds, and that's such a critical job.
Jennifer Chapman is in her 28th year teaching at Inglewood and says while the teacher pay increase is good, she's in it for more than the money.
I think it's great for teachers, but we don't teach for the money because we don't make that much money. Teachers that stay there are there because of the kids.
With what the governor is calling attractive compensation, he says he wants to make sure good educators are attracted to Florida. And it's something current educators could see happen with this increase in teacher pay.
So to be valued and compensated in a way that's more reflective of the job that you do, I think that probably will draw more educators into the profession.
After stirring headlines for years over his role in Jacksonville's drill rap scene, Charles Jones, also known as Foolio, was shot and killed in Tampa this summer. Foolio had millions of streams on YouTube spread out over dozens of songs. He also made frequent appearances on newscasts due to the connections between Jacksonville's rap scene and the violence in the city. Here's Zach Wilcox with your 8th top story of the year.
But that's how, once you get in that culture and that lifestyle, it's kind of difficult to get out.
Foolio started gaining attention in 2019 when his brother, another Jacksonville rapper who went by Bibby, was killed at an apartment complex in Moncrief. In July 2020, the rapper was shot in Houston, famously posting during his recovery stating, "Y'all miss 100 shots." In November 2021, Foolio was shot in Riverside while getting out of a car.
So he started gaining notoriety. He started getting more hits on social media.
Then in April 2022, he was arrested for illegally tinted windows and fleeing police during a traffic stop. In October 2023, he was shot in the foot on 18th Street in Jacksonville. Police said it appeared suspects were waiting for him and ambushed.
And there was no off-ramp for him at this point. Some of the things he said and had done had been memorialized over and over and over again. And in some way, he was held in high esteem, but he was also creating himself to be a big target, too.
It all culminated this weekend when Foolio was shot and killed during a birthday celebration in Tampa. The rapper's attorney said he stayed in an Airbnb, but was asked to leave when his party went over the occupancy limit. Tampa police report they were called to a Holiday Inn just before 5 in the morning, where they found 2 cars riddled with bullet holes and 4 victims. 3 were still alive and were taken to the hospital. The other was Foolio.
Everybody's worried about retaliation or retribution. They always are. So unless you're looking at a ton of time in prison, that's when sometimes you get people talking and you get somebody who's trying to mitigate their situation and says, I can give you this.
First Coast News crime and safety expert Mark Bachman says JSO will play a role in that investigation despite the shooting happening in Tampa. Bachman says authorities will be on the lookout for another domino to fall following Foolio's death.
Total disrespect for one another, and then that disrespect fuels that anger, and then you have a blatant disregard for life at that point.
Tampa police said this morning that they're working to figure out how this all happened, what started before the shooting, and they didn't release any suspect information at this point. In downtown Jacksonville, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.
Violence that turned deadly at Jenny Springs this past May was your 7th most read story of the year on FirstCoastNews.com. Riley Phillips has the story on how a fun weekend at a popular swimming and camping site turned into a deadly one.
It would be the last time that we ever go on a holiday.
Devin Dulaney says he was terrified Saturday night as he watched police cars and a helicopter arrive at Jenny Springs.
It was extremely concerning. We couldn't go to sleep that night. Everybody felt in danger.
The violence started late Friday night into early Saturday morning when 34-year-old Cody Stewart was shot and killed. Investigators say there was an argument over a parking spot earlier in the day, which led to a physical fight. Fisher Watts and his brother Dallas were arrested in connection to the shooting. Then Saturday night, a large fight in another part of the park. Investigators say someone shot into the crowd, hitting 3 innocent bystanders. One person has very serious injuries. No one has been arrested yet, but they are looking for multiple suspects. The Gilchrist County Sheriff's Office says more than 20,000 people were at Jenny Springs over the weekend.
The density at that location and the excess and open use of intoxicants there is surely a recipe for disaster no matter where it is, but this is what faces us here.
Delaney says he saw the crowds firsthand. He hopes the owners of Jenny Springs will make changes to ensure nothing like this happens again.
Something that in a place where we all need to find our reprieve from day-to-day life, it's a disappointment, and I really hope that these things are handled so we feel safe to go back.
I also asked the sheriff's office about the 4th of July. That's the next big holiday weekend. The undersheriff told me they will be working with the owners of Jenny Springs and the county commission to find a way to prevent something like this from happening again. I also reached out to Jenny Springs again today. They told me they are not commenting on this and they will let the sheriff's office handle any information. Live in Trenton, Riley Phillips, First Coast News, on your side.
The 6th most read story on our website this year involves this elephant. Back in March, Ali the elephant underwent tusk removal surgery at the Jacksonville Zoo. Ali is no typical elephant. He was rescued from Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch decades ago. Zoo personnel have been trying to remove an infected tusk on Ali since 2019. 30 large mammal specialists traveled from zoos across the world to the Jacksonville Zoo in March to perform the last phase of the surgery. After the tusk was removed, it was sent to the Smithsonian to be preserved and examined for research purposes. The 2024 Summer Olympics saw many local athletes make headlines, including one that became our 5th top story this year. The fastest teenager in the country denied a top spot on Team USA. That teenager's name is Christian Miller, a recent graduate from Creekside High School in St. Johns County. Here's Lewis Turner with the story.
I'm going to do my best not to get mad and put my fists through this monitor here because I'm a little frustrated about something. Tough news for a local track star, Christian Miller. Just doesn't seem fair. The recent Creekside grad recently finishing 5th in the 100-meter Olympic trials, which, by being in the top 6, put him right there in consideration for the 4x100 relay pool in Paris. But we're now finding out Team USA Track and Field decided to go in a different direction, taking Kyrie King instead of Christian. By the way, Kyrie King did not make the finals at Olympic trials. Christian straight up beat him on all different levels. Now, while it does seem to be unfair, and to me it is, Team USA has the right to do this, take the 6th they decide to take. And we could all sit here and be mad about it, but having talked to Christian, he's not mad. The young man, keeping it in perspective, said he's leaving it all in God's hands.
I just knew that, if it's a part of his plan, then they'll end up selecting me for that relay, and I'll be down in Paris for you guys to watch me again. But if it's not his plan, then I know that I had an amazing season with amazing points that I made, amazing milestones that I hit that will stay with history for the rest of my life.
Oh, deep breath. Now that is some level-headed perspective. Again, I'd feel like throwing things through walls when I was 18 years old, but his future is so bright. He's the Gatorade National Track and Field Player of the Year. He finished 5th at Olympic trials, as we just mentioned, the fastest teenager in the country right now, and will be heading to the University of Georgia to run in the fall. And of course, we'll be watching out very carefully for him in Los Angeles in 4 years as well. What an amazing guy. Keitha?
This next story is something basically straight out of a horror movie. What started as constant nosebleeds turned into the discovery of 150 bugs inside a man's face at a hospital here in Jacksonville. And this is one you'll have to see to believe, and even when you see it, you still may not believe it. And a warning for you, some of the images you're about to see, they're graphic and directly from the operating room. Rich Donnelly has your 4th top story of the year.
Over a couple hours, my face just started swelling. So my lips swelled. I could hardly talk. My whole face felt like it was on fire.
First Coast News is not identifying the man from this procedure, but the patient said he began feeling off in October of 2023. 30 years ago, he had neuroblastoma, which removed a cancerous tumor in his nose and left him with an extremely compromised immune system. Over the course of a few hours last week, his face became extremely swollen.
I started getting nosebleeds, constant nosebleeds. I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom without my nose starting to bleed.
And that's when he went to HCA Florida Memorial Hospital.
When I went for the examination, the doctor goes, "I see movement."
Dr. David Carlson was the ENT on call that night.
We took a little camera and we looked in the nose, and that's when things dramatically changed.
Dozens of bugs, alive and feeding on the inside of the patient's nose and sinus cavity.
Size-wise, there was variations, but some of the larger ones were probably as big as the end of my pinky. I knew he was in big trouble. There was erosion that was occurring up near what we call the skull base that was in very close proximity to his eye and his brain.
Dr. Carlson immediately tried to remove the bugs.
We initially attempted to try to remove these via suction with a little device, but it ended up clogging up the suction. They were large enough I couldn't get them through the suction. So we ended up having to remove them one by one using different instrumentation.
And it hurt because they weren't coming willingly either.
150 bugs in the larva stage were pulled out of the patient's nose and have been sent off to an epidemiologist to determine what type of bug they are.
They were up right against his skull base, right underneath the brain. Had they gone through that, it could have killed him.
This case is extremely rare. There's nothing like it documented in the United States. And while Dr. Carlson doesn't want to cause widespread panic, he does caution people with compromised immune systems.
Certainly if you're going to be around a dirty environment, those hands need to be washed.
I know that I have to change my lifestyle as far as how I handle fish. Before I would rinse my hands in the river. Now I'll use a cleaner to just do a better job in between and make sure I don't touch my nose with my hands.
The patient was given an antiparasitic and will be evaluated 3 to 4 times a year, but is expected to make a full recovery. Reporting in Jacksonville, Rich Donnelly, First Coast News, on your side.
When anything happens in the world of HOAs, you take notice. That was the case in July when a new Florida law went into effect, cracking down on HOA authority. Impacts of the law vary from preventing HOAs from fining homeowners for leaving trash cans out to allowing homeowners to do AC work without approval. Here's Zach Wilcox with your third top story of the year.
Park your work truck in the driveway. Leave your trash cans out for a little while after a pickup. Florida lawmakers are cracking down on what HOAs can tell you to do and not to do. Two new HOA laws just took effect. The first comes with a list of guidelines for reining in HOA control over neighborhoods, from letting homeowners park personal vehicles wherever they want as long as they follow state and local codes, to banning compound interest on assessments, to letting homeowners work on their ACs without having to get permission from the HOA. The second new law, which took effect in May, requires HOAs to give homeowners the ability to make their homes more storm resistant with things like shutters and impact resistant windows. I talked with a real estate attorney who says she's already gone to work trying to make sure the HOAs they represent are up to speed.
Hopefully there won't be too many changes for our clients, but I'm sure that there'll definitely be more defenses available to some members, and we may be in court a little more often as everyone gets used to the new laws.
Rulo's law firm represents thousands of HOAs, and she says that a lot of the ones that they represent really won't be impacted a whole lot by these new laws. So her tip is to check with your HOA's agreement to see if there are any changes that are going to be coming in your neighborhood. In Jacksonville, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.
All right, you see Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan right here. He is always busy during hurricane season. You know, first we had Hurricane Debbie, then Hurricane Helene, then Milton. We went through it this hurricane season, but what about Hurricane Nadine? Viral yet misleading. Social media posts circulated after we saw our third hurricane landfall of the season. It suggested that the state was in store for yet another major hurricane, but that wasn't the case. Verifying Hurricane Nadine, your second most clicked story of the year.
You know, the last thing people want to hear right now is that another hurricane is coming and we're going to get slammed, right? We've seen images like this one spread all over social media today showing parts of Florida in a cone. The person who posted this wrote, Hurricane Nadine is coming next week, October 18th. Looks like same path of Helene. You can see what we did. Big red X. We don't want anybody to believe this at all. We want to tell you right off the bat, this track is not real. Our sources tonight are the National Hurricane Center and our Chief Meteorologist, Tim Deegan. The National Hurricane Center puts out advisories for any tropical systems they are keeping an eye on. So here is the real thing. This is actually the official map from today on their website. And you can see there are 3 spots. Here's Milton right over here, leaving Florida. Here's Leslie out in the middle somewhere. And then there's an unnamed thing over by Africa. And you notice here in the Gulf, there is no such thing as Nadine or any system at all. So let's check in right now with First Coast News Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan. And Tim, I think whoever posted this was just downright mean. Nobody needs to get upset.
Well, they certainly know how to tweak people's nerves, because friends, family members this morning early started off with many texts to me saying, Tim, sorry, but is this true? So it certainly seemed to hit a lot of folks to make them wonder. Now, we can't prove this, but we went back to the archives of just the last couple of weeks, and this cone looks very similar. This is of Helene, notice, September 23rd, and this is what the Hurricane Center put out for Helene. Now, Jeannie mentioned this, and I want to double up on this. If you wonder if it really is something that is, well, getting you upset, let's take a look, and I want to show you and remind you that, as Jeannie mentioned, there's Leslie, there's Milton, there's nothing down there the Hurricane Center is watching. But I also want to talk about, and Jeannie put it well, just this thing off of Africa. Remember, they'll do that. This only has a 20% chance of developing over 7 days, and yet they'll talk about that. So they're going to do that, number one. Number two, they are not going to. It's part of their threshold rules. They will not put out a cone a week before they think something will form, maybe 2 days. That's it. Now, with all that said, that doesn't mean that late next week we might be watching something develop here, but at the present time, there's no reason to think that on Tuesday there'll be a named storm in the Caribbean. Another reason to try to trust the folks you get your forecast from.
Speaking of verifying hurricanes, we've heard about random treasure or drugs washing ashore in the wake of a hurricane. But what about an entire ship? That was your top story of the year. First Coast News Verify about whether or not Hurricane Milton actually washed a 1700s ghost ship ashore near St. Augustine. As crazy as this all sounds, did it actually happen? Here's Jessica Clark.
A Facebook post claiming this ship is a fully intact 1700s-era ghost ship that washed ashore near St. Augustine Wednesday is going viral, with more than 19,000 shares since it was posted Wednesday. And some people are pointing out in the comments, that doesn't really look like St. Augustine, because it's not. Let's verify how we know this post is fake. The question, did a 1700s-era ghost ship wash ashore near St. Augustine in the aftermath of Hurricane Milton on Wednesday? Our sources are maritime archaeologist Chuck Mead, First Coast News meteorologist Robert Speta, Google Lens, and the account that published the post. The answer, this is false. Here's what we found. Chuck Mead, the director of the Lighthouse Archaeological Maritime Program at the St. Augustine Lighthouse and Museum, tells First Coast News the post is not true, saying Florida shipwrecks that wash ashore would never be fully intact because of the warm water and sea creatures that eat the wood of shipwrecks. According to First Coast News meteorologist Robert Speta, Milton was a Category 1 hurricane when it crossed the Atlantic Ocean after passing over central Florida, so it was never a Category 4 storm in the Atlantic as the post claims. Using Google Lens, we were able to find the original image is a picture of the Flying Dutchman located on Disney's private island, Castaway Cay, from 2006 to 2010 to promote the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. The biggest giveaway this post is fake. The account that published it is labeled as satire, but that has not stopped thousands of people from believing that it's real.
All right, and those are FirstCoastNews.com's top 10 stories of 2024. Thank you for clicking this year, and thank you for watching First Coast News Plus.